we go. Hi everyone, how are you? Hello, welcome to Chandler's Cottage. Today is our first calendar make episode for the 2024 Chandler's Cottage calendar. So it's very exciting and quite daunting because it's the first one. This morning, the momentous moment where we put up a new playlist on the Chandler's Cottage YouTube channel so that we can upload all 24 of the episodes for this year. So I've already put up the bake one for you, so you can get started on making your yummy Mulva muffins. And the birds are really noisy, aren't they? I don't know if we can do anything about that. I've got sparrows outside nesting. Hopefully you won't pick up too much of those from my mic. But I decided that I wanted to do today's show for you kind of almost like in real time. So I'm filming it on the afternoon of the 1st of January. It's a glorious New Year's Day here in West Gippsland, Victoria in Australia, if you're watching from overseas. And the birds are making the absolute most of it. And it's the second round of nesting season. So hopefully I can compete with them. Anyway, there we go. Now, the first month of the calendar is themed for South Africa. So as you may or may not know, our calendar for this year is a little bit of a trip around the world. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is our calendar, like that. Actually, let's just see how this works. If I hold it up, there we go. So there's our calendar. And as you can see, a little bit of an old-fashioned map on the front, and on the back there are all of the projects that we are going to cover this year. And as I said, a different country each month. Some of them are very traditional recipes, and some of them I've added a little bit of a twist to make them a little bit up to date perhaps, or a little bit of my own Aussie kind of feel to them. But ultimately they are fully inspired by different countries. Now, when it comes to projects, I really wanted to do Bird of Paradise for South Africa, as it's a native flower of that country. And I thought it would give us a really lovely, full-on, make a statement cushion. And I've done this because of all the detail in it. I have done it with raw edge applique, and that's why it's also done with batik. So if you have watched my Chandler's Cottage show from the 31st of December 2023, you can find that under our live shows, and it's also under my trio applique topic that we're doing at the moment. Raw edge applique is fantastic with batiks because the batik is usually the same colour front and back, and therefore if you've got any little corners that kick up, you don't see a faded or paler background coming up from underneath or back of the fabric. So what I did with this one as well, I went a little bit contemporary with it. So we've used the design twice. So when you get your calendar, you'll also get some pattern sheets in the back like this. So there's our full one there of the Bird of Paradise like that. And so what I've done, I've used it twice. I've used it once to actually add stitch detail, if you can see that. Do I need to move my coffee? Maybe. My shows are one-hit wonders. We don't edit them, so I'm really hoping I've got everything here on the table. And you'll have to excuse me if I need to move stuff around, because you really are just in our house. And the sewing room is right down the other end, so I don't want to have to run down there for anything. But we've added the detail, all of the Bird of Paradise detail, line drawing over here with stitching first. And then we've used it again to do the applique. And what I've actually done is, you know when you usually do Leesa or Steamer Seam, a self-adhesive paper-backed product, to add the adhesive to the back of your fabric, and then cut it out and then glue it down. You always have to do the pattern in reverse. Well, this time what I did, I didn't reverse it because I really did want mirror images. So one in the quilting stitching design goes this way, and then the applique goes the other way. So they overlap each other. There's two different background fabrics under there, and they're a mirror image. So it sort of gives it a lot of interest and tactile texture to it. What I'm going to do today for you, it is, I'm not going to lie to you, it's probably one of the most time-consuming projects in this year's calendar. I went a lot more detailed and some larger projects in terms of physical projects, but also in terms of time this year compared to 2023. Oh, it's so hard, isn't it, to get all of those dates around the right way. time to sit in your sewing room on the sewing machine, or you may decide to stitch it by hand. I'm going to leave that up to you. To have this going while you do some of the smaller projects throughout the year. So you give yourself a little bit of balance. Many of the other ones you can actually take with you mobile to do at your quilting group, on holidays, on the train, on the plane, wherever you are. So I thought, well, if we start this one off, this one can kind of just be simmering away in the background when you've got 5-10 minutes to sit at the machine and while you work on the other ones. So there is a bit of work in it. What I want to do today is just take you through some of the key elements to kickstart you off to get it done. Some of the others I may actually be able to pull off the whole project in the demo, but not this one. And I am going to be naughty. I'm going to double up just a little bit because I want to take one of the flowers off the cushion and use it for a bag panel that I'm doing with my Quilters Life members. So I am being guilty today. I'm doing sort of two things at once. Right, now in the calendar, you would have seen it when we started up the show. You've got January with your picture, with your cushion and your recipe. And then further down we have the recipes. And then at the back, and I did it this year as well, so hang on, I'll explain. I will explain. The calendar and the recipes all run landscape. And then when you get to the patterns, this year I've gone portrait. So once the year is over, or when you take this into your sewing room, it's going to be much easier for you to work with it as a pattern book rather than in a flip over landscape calendar format. Can you tell I'm in really light on with the sugar so far today? I think we're good. I've got the coffee, but you know how you do that whole first of the year thing, I'm going to be super good. And I am, but my body's just adjusting to not having sugar in my coffee today or anywhere else. Okay, so first lot of instructions that you will get are to actually cut out your background. And one of your fabrics is also the backing. If you have grabbed your kit, you're going to have your kit that looks like this, all lovingly packed off by one of our team or a family member. And we'll take that out. All of them are individually labelled. If you haven't grabbed yours yet and you would like to, just go to our website, chandlerscottage.com. I can put all the fancy links in and everything for you. Just put 2024 in the search window and it will bring up all your options. You can just buy the calendar. You can buy the calendar and the kits. If you've already got your calendar and you've decided you'd like the kits, it's there for you. If you would just like the kit for this month, it's there. If you would just like the pattern for this month, it's there. Please do your maths though. Have a look at all of the projects that we have and just see what's going to work for you, because the value for money in buying the complete calendar compared to individual patterns and the complete kit calendar pack is way better than buying them individually. So just sum it up. Maybe you want to talk to your friends and say, look, I only want these 6. Do you want the other 6? All those sort of little things. But it is worth doing it. And we can do it like that because we pack them in bulk. It works out better for us, of course, as well. So I'll just fold that and get it out of the way. Now in this pack, okay, here we go. You've got beautiful Wonderful thread. And that thread I have used for all of the background stitching on the cushion, and I've also used it for appliqueing on all of my leaves. I did use a purple and an orange for these two, and I do have those colours also in Wonderful, in confetti. If you would like them, just let me know. Just contact me through the YouTube channel or info@Chandler's Cottage, and I will certainly be able to help you with those. So that's our beautiful thread that we're going to use, and I am actually going to open this one because I can't find my original. We've got our green for our leaves and our 2 lovely batiks as well for our flowers. And then we're down to our background. So you've got a lovely piece of soft 100% cotton denim. And of course you can use whatever you want to if you've got your own. So I've got a nice big piece of that, and that's going to do my front and my back. And then I've got my piece of batik that's just for the front as well. what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to work with this piece because, as I said, I want to do one of the flowers for another project, so this works for me as well. And you'll be able to do that as well. Even if you don't want to do the whole cushion, break it down, take off one of the flowers, or just use it as a lovely stitchery that you can do by hand or machine over here. So I'll leave that up to you. So in the instructions, this piece that I've actually got here, we would cut this, wait for it, I can do it, I have circled it, but I've still got to look twice. 20 high by 13.5 wide. So that's going to be that piece that goes over here. And from your other fabric that's for this side and the background and the backing, you're going to cut a narrower piece to attach to this one. And then that's going to give you your full front cushion square. So that's my piece that I'm going to use. I'm just going to set that over there. Now, to transfer on such an intricate design, you can do it with a light box if you wish to. Just always keep in mind when you're doing it, you know, add on as much stem detail as you want. I know I did make a note in the pattern that there is so many lines and detail in there to give you the full botanical look that if you miss a couple, honestly, it's not going to make that big a difference. I'm just going to iron this out. So what I'm going to do with this piece today, instead of doing the full cushion like you're going to, I'm just going to focus on one of the flowers that is in the design to give you a little bit of a head start. One fun thing that you've got ahead of you as well with this, and I always think it's with a cup of coffee or, I don't know, a little pack of munchies over here or something like that, is to go through and start giving yourself an idea of the order in which to add all of your design pieces on with. So if I, for example, look at these 3 stems down here, I'm going to put an A against them. I love using letters for my order of addition and numbers for my pieces. So these 3 are going to go on first. And then if I look up here, well, that guy is overlapped. This guy, look, this bit here is overlapped by that one. It's overlapped by this stem, and it's overlapped by this leaf. So he's going to have to go on next before that one can go on. And I just sort of work my way around. So this would be a B. He can be a C because he can go on after this one. This leaf over here, this would also be a B because it's overlapped by 2 others. And then this little tip bit out here can be a C. Now, I'm using this as an example here, but I'm hoping when you get it, you'll also see here as well that with these leaves, I've created the illusion with lines. Let me just get one here for you. I've created the illusion with lines that the leaf folds over. But you don't have to do these as 2 separate pieces if you don't want to. You can just do it as one whole piece of batik. Do you say batik or batik? I'm in a batik mood today, so we'll say batik. You can just do it with one whole piece, and then the lines that you add in will give you the illusion that the actual leaf is folded over. Or the other thing that you can do, depending on the fabrics you're using, you could actually use 2 subtly different toned greens for your leaves, and I would probably make the bit that sits underneath the darker green and the bit that sits over the top the lighter green, because generally leaves are a bit darker underneath than on the top, but I'll leave that up to you. So just have a look at those as well. As you go, there might be quite a few in there, well there are, that you can have a little bit of a cheat and just use one fabric and then follow the lines that I've put on so that you create that flip effect. To add the design onto your background, as I said, Lightbox is going to be a great way to do it. Or the other way that I did it, and I have quite firmly noted in the pattern for you, well, no, not firmly, it's a disclaimer that if you decide to do it the way that I did it, be prepared for a little bit of time in front of the television with a pair of tweezers and a little needle to get the tearaway out. So I actually put my design on, and I'm not going to do it this way this time. I put my design on with, sorry, I'm just looking at which one I want to do. A triple stitch. And I did it with tearaway, with adhesive tearaway, which is this stuff I'm pulling out now. If you're wondering what I'm using, lightweight fusible tearaway. And I iron it onto the front. Fabulous. So easy. But you've got to remember that you've actually got to then tear it away from the front of your work. So I used a triple stitch last time. I'm just going to use a single today. And because I'm only using a single, it's not going to show up that much on my green because I'm using this pale green. So when I actually come to do the real one that I'm going to use for this little project I'm doing, I will use a darker background fabric or I'll use a darker thread so that I can do it with a single stitch and it's still going to show up really well. Okay, so I'm going to pop my design over. Oh, it's true Australian here now. I've got blowflies in the house. Well, the doors are open. Okay, see this little one here? I'm just going to use this one for showing you today, and this is the one that I'm going to use for my little bag panel that I'm doing. So I'm going to trace it off. Now, did you see I picked up the Sharpie and I had a flashback and I put it straight down because each time I had a little bit of tearaway paper that was a little bit resistant to pull out from under my triple stitch. I could have left it there if I had done it with a grey lead and I could have just put a rubber over the top to soften it up, but no, I'd done it with a Sharpie so I could see the black. So I'm not going to do that. So now I'm just using a really soft grey lead. It's funny, isn't it? Over time we have all these amazing tools and things, and it just seems lately I have gone back in a lot of ways to basics. I love my chalk pencils, don't get me wrong. I love my Iron Off Clover white pen as well. I love it to bits. But, you know, a lot of the time I just love picking up a soft pencil. I'm doing some design work at the moment too. May I just, you know, it's not a brag thing, just letting you know. Just doing a bit, and I'm using pencils a lot, so I suppose they're sitting out on my desk. Okay. So as I said, you've got quite a lot of lines. Now with these flowers, if you're wondering if it's really keeping you awake at night, if you've got your calendar already before Christmas, how on earth are you going to do these details in these flowers? Well, that little tip I gave you before about putting on larger pieces and then using the stitch detail to make it look like you've got lots and lots in there, that's probably going to be your saviour. You can do them all individually, but that's what I would suggest. So if we just have a look at the cushion again here. You have a look at these guys up here. I have not done those with individual pieces. So all of the orange is one piece, and all of the purple is one piece. So you will be able to simplify it down, and we'll do one of those in a minute. Okay, so I've got my design off there, and then I'll take my diagram out of the way. And I'll just say it again, if you want to do this by hand, if you love stitching, then there is no reason why you can't do that. Move that out of the way. Do you know what? Let's do it. Let's switch over now. And now that I've explained to you how this all works with your background, let's do it now. I'm going to pop mine. This is not the way the pattern goes, but as I have explained, but I'm going to switch over now and put this on here. Now, if you are a Quilters Life member, and if you don't know what a Quilters Life is, please have a look at aquilterslife.podia.com. There's also links on my website. That's my subscription club. That's $10 Australian a month. And so we are going to be working on a larger version of my walker bag this month. And I've got a few ideas of how we can embellish the front of the bag, and I want to do one of them with this bird of paradise. So that one little flower there has come off quite nicely, and just with a dry iron, this adhesive tear away is going to go on here, but it's going onto the front. So I'll just turn this round. Excuse me while I just use my scissors to cut this down. And obviously this kit is now mine, and I'll have to sneak myself another piece of denim for the cushion later if I need it. But of course I've already got one. All right, there we are. So that's on there. Dry iron is best for this. So just, you just use your little board, your little iron or whatever you've got handy, and pop that on, and it does stick. You can see it sticks really well. The great thing about it as well, you can peel it off and it will stick down again. There we are. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll thread up the machine, which I haven't done yet. We'll thread up the machine. I've got my bobbin in. The other, do you know, I looked everywhere for that. And I was about to talk to you about, if you can't find your stopper, flip up your vertical, and it was sitting on the vertical all the time. Okay, just move my chair over very glamorously. I should have bought the wheelie, and I'll just thread this up. So with this concept that we're working with this month, I'd like to challenge you to have a look through all the other patterns and maybe applique designs and things that you have in your stash, because sometimes when we look at a applique design, unconsciously, whether it's in a magazine, online or whatever, we can be put off by the detail in it as one, but also sometimes by the colour. And so often the colour, it's not about the colour of the applique, it's about the background that it has been put onto. Maybe the other way around, that you absolutely love it and you can't work out why. And again, it might be because of the background. Sometimes also we know that we want to create, an amazing big panel or a piece of work with applique on it, and we just can't get fabric in the size. So if you want it bigger than 1 metre or 40 inches, or it's bigger again, or you've got the right colours in your stash, but none of them are the right size. Just stop and think about whether you can piece them all together to make the background. So if you've got a whole heap of beautiful cream and whites, black and whites, whatever you've got, and you want to put strong reds over the top or whatever, and none of your pieces are big enough for the background, just start cutting them up and piecing them together. And that, I have done that before. So if I've got a heap of white and creams and I want to do 12 blocks, and none of them I have enough to do the 12 blocks, cut them up, piece them together in simple squares, a rectangle and 2 squares, in stripes. Just create something from what you've got, and it can make the project. It'll really make it. So, I'm trying to do this, don't you? So you can't see I've got my gardening shorts on. Have you worked that out yet? I don't want to stand up. All right, let's go over to the machine. Now I've told you, maybe I should stand up. No, not yet. Okay. So, heavens, haven't even got the dual feed on. This, pop that in there. Now, the piece that I'm doing today is nice and small. If you are doing your cushion, then I would want you to pop yourself into a hoop. Now, in the pattern, I've also suggested you put another stabiliser underneath. So this may be when you want to put an adhesive weft on the back, and interfacing, or indeed more of the tearaway. I wouldn't actually, no, don't do that, because that's just more for you to pull off. But if you want to stabilise the back, now's the time to do it before you start this stitching. That's going to be a personal preference. But one thing that is definitely going to help you keep everything nice and flat, God, those birds are so noisy, is to pop this into your hoop. And you do it upside down. So your big one actually goes on the bottom and the inner one on the top. Can you see that? So it's pushed it down. And now my work will sit flat. I'm just going to wind it up. It's going to sit flat on the surface, on my sewing bed, on the sewing machine. There we go. Pull up, not out, so it doesn't pop out the hoop. I learned that from machine embroidery. But this is going to keep it nice and flat. Now, I might leave this in here even for this piece, even though it doesn't cover the whole hoop, but this is what you want to do. And the great thing again about the tearaway is if it does lift a little bit, it'll iron back down. I did mention on the live shows yesterday as well that to protect your work, if you've got a lot of applique and things on already, you'll want to wind some ribbon around your hoop pieces, some satin ribbon or some soft fabric, so that it doesn't, so it's a lot nicer and curved edges where your applique pieces are, so it won't do any damage to your applique pieces if you have to keep putting them in and out of the hoop and squishing them between the two rings. All right, so with this is now calm stuff, get the coffee, put on your favourite music and stitch. So do I want to? Yes. Okay, I'm thinking about, do I want to triple stitch or not? No, I'm not going to triple stitch because, as I've said, I've learnt my lesson there. So I'm just going to do a normal stitch. I would probably reduce it though, so that I sort of get more of a chunkier, close, intense stitch on the top. Oh, hadn't started my machine up before you got here. Okay. Now, have you already thought about this bit? Once you have finished doing all of your stitching, you know what I'm going to say? Change your needle, because you are sewing through paper and you are going to blunt that needle over time. This is a good Superior Thread titanium needle. It's done a lot of work. It's seen a lot of work in the last month because they just do not go blunt. But if my next project, which I think it is, has got some super fine batiks in it, or not to mention doing the applique for this, then I will switch my needle over. Now, I've said no triple stitch. However, I will probably do some double up to save myself having to stop and finish off and start again. So there'll probably be a little bit of doubling up. And you can see having it in the hoop is actually really nice. If you do have trouble with the joints in your fingers, then this is actually really lovely because you can simply have one or two fingers on your hoop to turn your work instead of having to hold it. You know, and grip with your fingers. Now, I just want to finish this little top bit, and then I'm going to, oh, I can't talk, can I? And so at the same time, then I'm going to take it out and just show you how the tearaway works when it comes away. The other thing about doing a nice smaller stitch, I've set mine on 2 mil, is that it's a little bit sturdier for taking away the paper. I don't expect any issues with distortion or anything, but you'll get a much cleaner finish off. That might just about do us. I'll just run around this corner. There we go. Oh, you can't help myself. Look at that. Big long bit down there. If you stray off that line, no one is going to know. Okay. So that is the start of my stitching. There, I hope you can see that all right. And then you guys just start this here. That's how it's going to tear away. What I would suggest you get, and I'm really sorry, I haven't got mine with me here. I've got one tool that I do use. I would just have a little tapestry needle or a pointy tailor's awl or something like that. And I also use a satay stick, a satay stick or my Q-tip, my manicure stick, and a pair of tweezers. And I just pop in there, create a little hole like that, push it up, and then tear away. And then it will just slowly start coming away like that, really easily for you. And as I said, if you do end up with a couple of stitches in there, you might just take a little bit more time with a pair of tweezers to tease them out. I've just got a little bit of a fray in there. I don't want to take out too much yet because I'm going to keep going, but it will just pull out like that. Okay, I think you can see that okay. Yeah, so it's just going to come out like that. So that's how you're going to get yourself organised for your background. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is going to take you a bit of time, and as I said, that's why it's really nice to have this project on the go while we move on. When we get to the fan next month, they happen really quick. So this can be still going on while you're working on your next ones at the same time. Now I'm thinking way ahead. Yeah, there's heaps of stuff you can balance it out with. All right, so I'm going to leave this in my hoop because I'm going to play with this more later. And then let's just go back and have a look at the flowers. Sorry. Fly. Big fly. Huge fly. Like jumbo jet fly. And you set up the fly trap. I think it's time. Summer has finally arrived. Absolutely, summer's arrived. Okay, now with our actual appliqued flowers and leaves, same goes with these when it comes to the leaves. As I said before, you've got either lovely big pieces or you can do them in two different colours here and shade them. That's going to be your personal choice. When you actually apply them onto the background, you're going to do exactly the same thing as what we were just doing then, except this time you're going to be stitching with a single stitch in all around the edges of the leaves, please, and then adding in all of these little veins. Now, as I said, there's so many lines for detail in this particular project because I wanted it to look truly botanical, but if you want to draw yours in by hand, by sight I should say, do, please do, because no one's going to pick if one little squiggle's different to another one or if there's less lines or more lines. As long as you've got a rough idea and an angle of them, they're going to be fine. So, because there's no point when you actually trace the designs onto your paper-backed adhesive to put that vein detail in. You're really only going to be doing the outline of them. If you want to go back later and use transfer paper, carbon paper, graphene paper, whatever, to transfer on the exact same veins as me, then do. But I promise you, if you do draw your own in, they're going to be fine. So I've got steamer seam here, which I do like for projects like this where we're layering up. And I'm going to do one of the flowers for you. Always do check which side's got the adhesive is sticking to. Sometimes it can change its mind depending on the weather or how it's transported. You just stay there for a minute. I'm going to shut a window because the sparrows are so noisy. I just want to close one. Just one, because they're right outside. Guys, you're so noisy. Oh, heavens, that's better already. I think. Maybe. Yesterday we had kookaburras and everyone's starting up during the show. Okay. So I'm going to work here with one of these little flowers, and at the same time I'm going to have the picture of the project next to me so I can have a look at where I've used the orange and where I have used the purple. Now this of course is in reverse to what's here. So when I actually trace it on and it's sitting on the right hand side of my paper here, it's going to end up on the left hand side of the cushion, and I'll give you a little trick for that in a minute as well. For positioning. So I'm going to draw off my pieces. Now I can see in my little picture here that there's a purple one here. So that one's going to be purple. So I am going to use my Sharpie now, because I do find with the steamer seam that anything else but a Sharpie does rub off when I hit it with a hot iron. Now remember the little rule, when you come down and your piece is going to sit underneath another one, you need to add in a little tab, because you need it to be able to sit underneath another piece. So I've got that bit there, and then I've got that little V bit that sits up in the centre of the flower is also purple. This one here that I'm doing is probably a really good one to do first actually. It's the smaller of the two, and you'll get yourself going with that. I've put the pieces close together because I can actually stick them en masse onto the purple, and I'll do the same now with the other pieces that are the orange. Now if that little purple piece sits over the top of all these other ones, then all of this orange here can all be the same piece. It doesn't need to be separate pieces. We can create that illusion when we pop on the veins. So, sorry about my hand over the top, but actually I'm going to add in a couple more lines so I can show you what I mean. So we won't need all of these, but it's sort of going to show you what I'm talking about. So oh, you know what I did? Okay, this is live television. I didn't leave enough. I ran off the edge of my steamer seam. Let's try that again. Okay, so all of this, how cool is that, is all the same piece. And it sits on that bit. So if I hold that up for you, see that? Hang on, get rid of this bit. There you go. It's all one piece. That, my friends, is really good. Now, because I've drawn in this bottom bit here, with this particular edge, if you have a look, we need to add again that little tab, because that's going to sit underneath the other bit. So that is all of my orange. So even though the pattern has got all this detail in it here, it doesn't matter. We can do it all with one piece, and you'll be able to add those lines back in. So we'll cut this out. Oh, I do have my paper scissors. Okay, that's our purple. And this is our orange. If you've got Vlisafix, you'll be fine. We just sell, I was explaining yesterday, mostly, or we sell steamer seam because it travels well to send it by mail order, and it's great for layering up, but whatever you prefer to use is fine. So we need to stick these. Do you see me discreetly put that on the floor? I've just realised you did. I'm on clean up. I'll clean it up. It's only me. I'll clean it up. So I'll peel off the back paper and pop it down there. And that's the only bit I'm going to need. So we'll save the rest of our batik for the other two flowers. So you can see you've got heaps to do your flowers. And then this is for the rest of the flower. And you can see what I mean about the steamer seam. It's sticky. I haven't even stuck these down yet with the iron. So they are, it's really good because you can position things. We're finally getting around this week to popping up my design wall in my office in the house. And we've gone for my mate Emma's recommendation, which is acoustic insulation panels. And what I'm going to love about that is I can sort of get all of these with the paper peeled off, and they're all sticky, and I can literally just stick them up and layer them and arrange them without them actually being stuck down as I just did. Okay, so now I'm going to cut these shapes out, which look really weird because it's the whole flower, but it just doesn't quite look like it yet. If you decided that you would like to stitch this, and you can, I've said it a few times because I think in my head I would really like to just stitch it by hand in chain, back or stem stitch, probably. Oh, tough gig. I'm not very good at back stitch, and it's probably not. Oh, it might be suitable to chain stitch. I'm okay with chain stitch. I would recommend, rather than solid colours, if you would get, I would get a variegated. So a DMC or a Suspargo variegated green, orange and sort of periwinkle violet blue. Because it is a large design and there is a lot of detail in it, you're going to get a much nicer effect and movement than if you were to just use solid colours. And if you didn't want to use solid colours, well then you'd be looking at using 3 or 4 different shades of each one, and I just think life's too short to do that unless you've got a whole stash you want to work with. But instead I would strongly recommend variegated. So there's the rest of my flower there in the orange, and now I've just got to cut out my 2 purple pieces, and I've made sure I've added those little tabs as well as I've cut them out. Same goes with background. As I was mentioning, you could put a whole heap of different fabrics together. For the background on yours, I think that would be fantastic. And if you don't have them, but you are looking for that sort of multi-coloured ombre, sort of ombre effect or shaded effect, please have a look at the February project that's coming up next with the table runner. That's been appliqued onto a gelato ombre fabric print that's grey, black grey through to white in the centre. And that, actually, what I'm saying, I'll give you a look now. So you can see that there, we've got our appliqued Chinese fans, and they're actually appliqued onto an ombre fabric. And so that would work equally well for what we're doing at the moment. You could run a really nice sky blue or a different green underneath your bird of paradise if you've got some in your stash or you kind of like that idea a little bit more. Okay, so here are our 2 little pieces. Now, I'm pretty sure, if I have a look at my diagram again, that we can put these together now before they actually go onto my piece of fabric. So I'll just grab these and I'll peel off my orange one. So I've got my Teflon mats. I call them Teflon. They're called applique mats on the website, but I call it that because it is Teflon. And everything will stick onto it, but it will peel off again. And then I'll grab my little bit of purple, and if I have, just taking a little looky-see, I've got 3 points up here on my diagram, and I've got 3 points here, and this little guy kind of sits there. So he's got a bit sticking out. Yep. Hang on, I gotta get it right. Oh, no, 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 in reverse. It's in reverse. So that leaf there is that leaf there. Okay, we really need to talk about the reverse thing now. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, he goes about there. All right, we need to talk reverse. Pronto. Let me just put this one on and then we will. This little guy goes out there like that. All right. There you go. So now I can hit this with my iron and it will adhere the purple onto the orange, but the great thing is it doesn't actually stick the whole thing to the mat. So once it's, I'm being impatient, once it's cooled off, I can pull off the whole thing like a sticker and it's ready for me to stick onto my background. So if my background was ready, which it's not, but if it was, I'd be able to come through now and position it over the top. And if I didn't like where it was, I can peel it off and I can put it down again. Okay, let's talk reverse because we need to talk reverse. There are a few ways that you can do this. One is if you've got a light box, you can just simply get your light box, flip, put it down and retrace the pattern onto the back. With this project, because we've used it in both directions, I thought, well, it would be really cool to show you my little trick. I'm going to stick this on my calendar. That actually, look, that looks cool. Look, you can have your extra little flower on your, and it's going to stay there.